At a family dinner, I thanked my grandfather for the 500,000 pounds he'd given me. My parents smiled politely, then went very quiet. They didn't know he'd been secretly funding me for years. But that wasn't the real shock. What he revealed next explained everything, and it's why they never looked at me the same again. Hello, friends. Thanks for joining us at True Experience. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to stay connected with more real-life tales of betrayal and justice. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our community across the USA, Canada, and around the world. Quick note before we begin, names and some details have been changed for privacy, but this is a true account of what happened in my family. I was 53 years old when I finally understood why my parents had always treated me differently. Not badly, exactly. Just carefully, like I was a guest in their home rather than their son. My name is David. I grew up in Surrey, in a large brick house with a garden that backed onto woods. My father worked in finance. My mother stayed home. My younger sister, Caroline, was born when I was 4. We had the kind of childhood that looked perfect from the outside. Good schools, holidays abroad, piano lessons. But there was always something I couldn't name. A distance. My parents were kind to me. They provided everything I needed. But when Caroline scraped her knee, our mother would scoop her up and hold her for 20 minutes. When I fell, she cleaned the wound and sent me back outside. When Caroline struggled with maths, Dad would spend hours at the kitchen table with her. When I asked for help, he'd hire a tutor. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was being sensitive, that every child feels this way sometimes. When I was 16, I failed my driving test. I came home expecting, I don't know what, comfort, maybe. My father was reading the newspaper in his study. He looked up when I told him. "You'll pass next time," he said. Then he went back to his paper. Caroline failed hers twice. Both times, Dad took her out for ice cream and told her she was brilliant anyway. I stopped expecting warmth from them after that. I did well enough in school, went to university for engineering, got a decent job with a construction firm in London. I married a woman named Helen when I was 28. We had 2 children, a son and a daughter. My parents attended the weddings, the christenings. They sent cards on birthdays. But they never stayed long, never asked to babysit, never dropped by just a visit. My grandfather was different. His name was Arthur. He'd built his wealth in property development after the war, starting with one small lot in Kent and building it into something substantial. He was 81 when this story really begins, still sharp, still strong. He'd always taken an interest in me. When I was young, he'd take me to his office and show me blueprints. He taught me how to read surveys, how to spot a good investment, how to negotiate with contractors who thought they could overcharge you. "You've got the mind for this," he'd say. "Your father never did. Too cautious. You see the possibilities." When I started my career, Grandad was the one who helped me. Not with handouts, with opportunities. He'd call me about properties that were about to go on the market. He'd introduce me to the right people. He'd review my contracts and point out the clauses I'd missed. In 2004, when I was 32, he helped me buy my first property to renovate. I was nervous about the loan, about the risk. He sat me down in his conservatory with a whiskey. "I'm lending you 50,000 pounds, he said. "Not giving, lending. You'll pay me back when you sell. This is how you build something, David. One brick at a time." I paid him back within 18 months. The profit wasn't huge, but it was mine. He smiled when I handed him the check. "Keep going," he said. Over the years, he lent me money for 6 more projects. Sometimes 20,000, sometimes 70. Always with clear terms. Always with his faith that I'd make it work. And I did, every single time. By the time I was 45, I had a portfolio of 4 rental properties and a consultation business, helping other developers avoid the mistakes I'd made early on. I wasn't wealthy, not like Grandad, but I was comfortable, secure. My parents never asked about any of it. When I told my father I bought my 3rd property, he said, "That's nice, David." Then he changed the subject to Caroline's promotion at the hospital where she worked as an administrator. I stopped telling them things after a while. But Granddad always wanted to know. He'd call every month. We'd have lunch in the city, or I'd drive down to his house in Kent. He'd ask about the properties, about my children, about Helen's work as a teacher. He listened. He cared. In 2019, when I was 50, he called me to his house for a private meeting. He was 93 by then, moving slower but still himself. He poured us both a brandy and sat down heavily in his leather chair. "I'm getting my affairs in order," he said. "I want you to know what I'm planning." He explained that he decided to give me £500,000. Not in his will now. He wanted to see me use it. He wanted to know it had gone to someone who'd appreciate it, who'd build something with it. I was stunned. "Granddad, that's... I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just keep doing what you're doing. You've made me proud, David. You've worked hard for everything you have. This is my way of giving you a foundation to do even more." The money came through over the next few months. I used some of it to expand my consultation business. I invested the rest carefully, the way he'd taught me. I didn't tell my parents. It didn't seem relevant. We barely spoke as it was. But in March of 2023, Granddad turned 97. The family organized a dinner at a restaurant in Surrey. My parents, Caroline and her husband, my wife and me, and a few of Granddad's old friends. It was a pleasant enough evening. My mother had arranged everything beautifully. Caroline gave a speech about how much Granddad meant to family. Everyone raised their glasses. Toward the end of the meal, I stood up. I wasn't planning to make a speech. Exactly. But I wanted him to know, in front of everyone, how much he'd meant to me. "I just want to thank Granddad publicly," I said, "not just for tonight, but for everything he's done for me over the years. The guidance, the faith, and especially for the £500,000 he gave me a few years ago. It changed my life. I wouldn't be where I am without you." I raised my glass to him. Granddad smiled. But when I looked at my parents, their faces had gone very still. My mother's smile was frozen. My father stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. Caroline looked confused. "500,000? She said quietly. "Yes," I said, suddenly aware that I'd said something wrong. "Granddad helped me invest it. It's done very well." The table went silent. Granddad set down his glass. He looked at my father with an expression I'd never seen before. Calm but cold. "They didn't know?" my father said. "No," Granddad said. "And I didn't tell them because it was none of their business. David earned that money by being the grandson I could count on, the one who listened, the one who worked." My mother's voice was tight. "Dad, we need to talk about this privately." "No," Granddad said. "We don't. David, sit down. I'm going to tell you something I should have told you 30 years ago." I sat. My heart was pounding. Granddad looked at me, then at my parents. "David, your parents have always treated you differently because you're not their biological son. Your mother had an affair when you were conceived. Your father found out when you were 2 years old. They stayed together for appearances, but they never forgave you for existing." The room tilted. I looked at my mother. She was staring at her plate, her hands trembling. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. "That's why I gave you that money," Granddad continued. "Because you deserve to have someone in this family who saw you for who you are, not as a reminder of a mistake, as my grandson, as someone worthy." I couldn't speak. Helen reached for my hand under the table. Caroline was crying. "You knew," she whispered to our parents. "You knew, and you just let him think he wasn't good enough?" My father finally looked up. "It was complicated, Caroline." "It wasn't," Granddad said. "You punished a child for your wife's choices, and you've been doing it for 50 years. We left the restaurant 20 minutes later. My parents didn't say goodbye. In the weeks that followed, I had to rebuild my understanding of my entire childhood. Every cold moment, every time I've been held at arm's length. It all made sense now. Granddad passed away 6 months later, in September. He left me another £200,000 in his will. He left my parents nothing. Caroline received a small inheritance, along with a letter explaining that he loved her. but that he couldn't reward the people who had raised a child without love. My parents contested the will. They lost. I haven't spoken to them since the funeral. Caroline still calls me sometimes. She apologized for not seeing it sooner, for not standing up for me. I told her it wasn't her fault. She was a child, too. I'm 56 now. My children know the truth. I told them because I never want them to wonder why some people are treated differently in families. I want them to know that love isn't supposed to be conditional. I think about Grandad often, about how he saw something in me that my own parents couldn't, how he gave me not just money but belief. That's the inheritance that mattered most. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to True Experience. Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. And if you've experienced something similar, know that you're not alone. Thank you for listening.